same ways for Asia Pacific. So by running an IP anycast network the way DNS Made Easy does, we ensure that our speeds are always the top of in the world. And if you look at a lot of the third-party sites out there, let me bring one in over here. You look at Solve DNS, month after month you're going to see DNS Made Easy is continuously the fastest in the world. And this is comparing to all the other enterprise DNS services, and we're usually 20 to 30% faster. And you can go back month after month and see that pretty much every single month we're either #1 or we're tied with #2, and we're constantly ranked as being the fastest DNS provider in the world. And really the ability for us to do this all comes down to where we actually run our name servers and how we run our networks. For any information more about our network, feel free to actually view our DNS Made Easy website. You can read about how we actually run our full network in-house, how we control it, the data providers that we connect with, and how we implemented such a solution. But in doing this, we actually make sure that our users stay regional. So if you look at the globe of the world and where our name servers are located, we're ensuring that traffic stays in that specific region. And that's kind of the strength behind our global traffic director, is because we're ensuring that the users are going to hit those specific name servers that you're going to be able to configure. So why would people use such a service? Why would you want to have a specific zone information hosted in Europe different than in United States, different than in your Asia Pacific region? And that's pretty simple. It's for performance. If you're hosting your web servers in multiple regions around the world, you're going to want your users to get to the closest web server. You're not going to want them to hit another server, halfway around the world. Traffic segmentation is also something that's very important. Load, when the user's optimal load is. So if you were doing maintenance, if you had a 24/7 web service, there's never really a time where you can take your web server down and move all users to a backup site and say we're currently undergoing maintenance. But if you had your web servers located all around the world, there's times where specific regions are going to be off time, and that on the opposite side of the world, those are going to be on time. So it makes perfect sense to actually direct users to the most accurate location, and then you could do maintenance without affecting where your high traffic balance is for the other regions that are currently in their business hours. And load balancing. It's really important for a lot of large users to actually balance their traffic around different regions to make sure that you never have slow speeds for your end users. So I'm actually going to log into a DNS Made Easy interface here and walk you through the global traffic director. So once you log into DNS Made Easy, you of course get to your recently updated domains, and you can access that there, or you can access it through the Manage DNS menu. Once you access your domain, if you don't have the global traffic director turned on, and if you have that ability, and if you have the service purchased, all you have to do is go to the Settings menu and turn on the global traffic director, and then click Save. And immediately your domain is converted to be using the global traffic director configuration options. If you go back to your record listing screen, you're going to see that automatically you have different regions and a region column now specified. So as you add new records, you could specify which region you want that traffic to go to. So for instance, if we wanted our www record to have the IP here in Europe, and then we wanted the North America or the United States East to have a different record, and you wanted another region in the United States to have our West, and then Asia Pac. Right. So what we did really quickly is that we actually set up 4 different records, all responding with different records. So when you add any of your records into DNS Made Easy, your domain's actually configured at over 500 name servers worldwide. But what we're doing now is by specifying the GTD and the regions, we're going to enable us to specify all users that are hitting our European servers are going to be seeing this IP response. All users hitting North America and the East Coast servers are going to be hitting this response, the 2.2.2.2. All users hitting the West Coast and the North and really North American West Coast are going to be hitting, and those name servers are going to be hitting 3.3.3.3, and all users in the Asia Pac region are going to be hitting 4.4.4.4. In the next few weeks, we're going to be adding another region to our GTD services for the Australian and New Zealand users. As many of you are aware, we added a new POP into Sydney, Australia in September of last year. It's been a very successful POP for us. DNS Made Easy currently is the fastest resolving name server for an enterprise authoritative service in all of Australia, and we feel confident that we're able to actually bring in and pull in all that necessary traffic so no traffic leaks out. And obviously, we do that with the power of our IP Anycast Plus network that ensures that users are always getting the fastest response for their DNS query, but also based upon the GTD, you're also going to get the accurate response as well. DNS failover and system monitoring is one of the most important features that DNS Made Easy started back when it launched 13 years ago. And what DNS failover and system monitoring does is that it allows you to specify backup disaster recovery solutions for your primary server in case it goes down or has any issues. Now, one thing that DNS Made Easy did when it started its service is that it came in at a price point that was just shocking to the industry. Back in the days, DNS failover and system monitoring solutions were roughly $500 to $600 a month per record configuration. DNS Made Easy came in at that point and said we're going to offer it at $4.95 a year. It's the same price point it is today, and we're still the lowest in the industry for such a spectacular service. We allow HTTP, we allow HTTPS, we allow TCP, UDP, and DNS checks. All very powerful checks, all really redundant. What the DNS failover system monitoring solution does is it actually checks your web configuration or any of the services you have configured from multiple locations or multiple checkpoints. If we feel that we're unable to connect to it from one location, we do verify its connectivity from multiple other locations. If the multiple failures are reported, we then check a second IP you have configured. If the second IP is up, we then do an immediate dynamic update into all of our name servers worldwide with the new location. So the next time someone actually queries your web service or a particular service you have the record for, they're going to be going to the next possible IP, and they're not going to be going to the down system anymore. It's one of the features that put DNS Made Easy on the roadmap back in 2002, and it's still one of the most popular features today. Obviously, it automatically updates the DNS based on server availability. It notifies administrators of your server statuses. We send out emails to users. A feature that we launched about 2 years ago, we now allow you to have contact lists, and you can specify up to 275 individual contacts that you would like to be notified in case if a server is up or server goes down. Obviously, that the implementations are easy, and why you would want such a feature, it limits your downtime. It prevents loss of sales. You don't lose customer confidence when your site's not available, and it does automatic changes for you so someone doesn't have to be there monitoring your service. Right? So really, and as our arrows specify at the bottom, you monitor, you specify the port and protocol, you specify the backup IP. We then continuously monitor, roughly every 2 minutes, we monitor the server's connectivity and we detect any outages. If we do detect it's down, we then make a corrective action. We automatically change the IP to the backup IP if that IP is working, and we also notify you that that IP is down. So that is a big difference. 12, 13 years ago, a lot of services even today, they automatically will change an IP without checking the actual status of the secondary IP. The DNS Made Easy never believed that was the proper business model to do. We actually verify your second, third, fourth, or fifth IPs up and functioning first before we decide to make that change. That's still a process we have in place today. So I'm now going to show you real quickly how to configure that in DNS Made Easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a record. And when I add a record, once I'm in the GTD setting is turned on, you're going to see we have the default setting. And what default stands for is that that's going to actually apply for any region that doesn't currently have a more specific GTD region applied to it. So for that, right now, if I create this my control panel to the same control panel as DNS Made Easy's, then if I set it to the default, that means it's going to apply to Europe, US East, US West, and Asia Pacific. If I decide to create one such as Europe, it will then just supersede the Europe one, but the other ones will still fall to the default. So as you see here, these are our settings for our DNS Made Easy system monitoring and DNS failover, and I'll walk quickly through some of the configurations options for you. We have the monitoring notifications, and that's going to actually be the service that's actually going to send you the email based upon the system being up and being down. We send you an email every time there's a system failure, and we send you an email every time the system comes back up, but we have additional options as well as we're going to go over. The system description is going to be what the description of the system is that you'd like to be notified inside your email or text messages. So you could put in something descriptive. Since that's our control panel, I'm going to say it's our control panel services. You can then specify how you want to be contacted, and you can contact many different options. You can create your own contact lists, and as I stated before, you can actually indicate up to 275 individuals to contact within a list within your notification contact. We then tell you that you can actually specify the maximum number of emails you want to receive. So as I stated before, you're going to receive, once the service is turned on, you're going to receive an email every time the system is down and every time the system comes back up. But you can also receive additional emails to help alert you. And one of the reasons why you want to have this is if you had your notification contacts actually go to one of your email to phone text services. And with that ability, it allows you to keep receiving these text alerts to make sure you're notified. So a lot of times administrators want this late at night when their phone's not next to them or it's next to them in bed, so they actually hear the constant text messages. So we send an email once your service is down on the first failure, and then we send an email every 5 failures after that. If we're checking roughly every 2 minutes, you got to figure we're going to send an email about every 8 to 10 minutes. So for 5 emails, you're going to be receiving an email roughly. If it stays down for 40 minutes, you're going to be receiving the first email and 5 more. And then we're going to send you an email once it does come back up. We do a maximum number of emails because obviously some people don't want to receive hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails if the system is down for a day or two and they know the system is going to be down. Sensitivity allows you to specify how quickly we're going to fail over. DNS Made Easy does do a parallel check, system integrity check, so we do verify that the system is in fact down from multiple locations, and this just tells you how many times we're going to go back and recheck and recheck. So a quicker failover, obviously we're going to have minimum checks. We're actually going to verify it's down 3 separate times. If we actually do a medium check, we're actually going to be verifying this 6 different checks, and the slower failover is actually going to do 9 parallel checks to confirm that your services are in fact down before we decide to check the second location you have listed. Protocol allows you to specify the actual protocol you want to be monitoring for that service. As I stated before, we have the HTTP, the HTTPS, the TCP, UDP, and a DNS check. For simplicity reasons for this one, and we're really talking more about how to keep your services up and over for the global traffic director, I'm just going to specify TCP port 80. I'm going to turn on the DNS failover feature, and now I'm going to turn on and say if that server is down, I want to fail over to a second IP. If that server is down, I'll put in a 10 dot address just for example purposes, and then we can fail over that IP. So it's always going to check, always going to see if it's going to be location 1. If that goes down, it's going to check location 2, and if location 2 is also down, it's going to check location 3. As soon as it finds its first up, it's going to do a dynamic update and update all of our 500+ name servers worldwide. If we choose that we want the service to turn itself off after its first failover, then what you want to do is turn on this option, to turn off auto failover after first failure. And that's primarily meant for people that have a master-slave database replication where the database is only replicated one way. And if the database is only replicated one way, users usually want the features to turn itself off, and then they would manually back up the database, copy it up to their primary database, schedule a downtime, redeploy it, and then bring users back manually to the primary IP address. So this is just setting up the DNS failover. And once you click OK, that's it. That's done. So that's the feature that really has put DNS Made Easy on the roadmap. It's still in use today, and we plan on actually adding additional features to that in the coming months as well. So one thing that really is important that you can use inside DNS Made Easy, and one thing we want to talk about in this webinar, is combining the Global Traffic Director with DNS Failover, right? So that's designed to integrate the speed that you get and the offering of the increased speed for your users, as well as the DNS Failover services to make sure your services are always up and running. So they're really designed to operate and work together, and you can manipulate your regions and move traffic from one region to another region based on server failures or server outages. And obviously the configuration for that is going to be really simple. Inside here, if we said that all of our European traffic is going to 1.1.1.1, and if we wanted that to fail over to our US or North American East location, all we do is turn on our failover services. And turn on. So now what we did is that we are ensuring that all of our European users are going to our web server that's located in Europe, right? So we're going to give them the optimization of our services. We're guaranteeing that they're going to get to our closest possible place, that we actually are hosting the services that they need crucial to conduct their everyday business. And that's going to bring us to their website. If that service does go down, though, we don't want to give them a page not found. We actually want to give them to another location. It may be a little bit farther, so now they're going across the Atlantic Ocean, but they're actually now still going to hit that service. Likewise, if we had a disaster recovery solution within Europe, we can actually do that as well, and then actually bring it over to the North America by location number 3. And that actually gives you extra disaster recovery within a specific region, and then at last case, if both regions are down, we'll bring your traffic over to the other location for you. All right. So that's our quick review of our Global Traffic Director and our system monitoring and DNS failover services. If you have any questions regarding those, I know a lot of our users have been using those for years, feel free to let us know. Some of the new features that we've talked about recently are the contact list and stuff like that. Some of the other new features that we've actually added into DNS Made Easy. I'm sorry. I lost my sheet, is our SendGrid partnership and our two-factor authentication. So I'm going to walk through those real quickly with you right now just so everyone understands what we've done and some of the new features that we've added. So the SendGrid partnership. SendGrid is the world's leading transactional mail delivery service, and what DNS Made Easy did when we partnered with them is we allowed our users to bring together the world's #1 DNS service, which is the #1 email delivery platform. And on top of only integrating them, we're also offering a great value-added benefit for free for all DNS Made Easy users. So part with our partnership, we allowed all users to actually have the ability to send up to 200 free emails per day per domain name. And that's a huge value benefit for all of our DNS Made Easy users to get that SendGrid partnership included for free in your existing DNS Made Easy services. It's one of those things that we've integrated with our partnership program. There was no extra cost to DNS Made Easy users, and it's been used now by thousands of DNS Made Easy users as an added benefit for free. If it's something you haven't been doing yet, we highly suggest you to look into it and see if that's something that may help you out. To have your two services integrated together. It's very simple to start. All you do is you click on the third-party tab for your domain name, and you click Activate. It's going to ask you for your password, and then that's your new password to log into the SendGrid system. And it's going to give you all the information you're going to need to send out emails. And as we're stating, you get 200 free emails per day. There's different options as well as SendGrid that you can actually upgrade to get more corporate advantages, to send out more emails per day, and that's something you can do at any time as well. The second feature we've actually offered recently and upgraded to is our two-factor authentication. And what two-factor authentication allows you to do is that it actually allows you to use a token that's stored on your smartphone or stored on another device that routinely updates every 60 seconds. And as soon as your token is all set to be and you want to log in, what the service will do is going to ask you for your token, and then you have to go to your smartphone, you go to your device, and you're going to enter that into the DNS Made Easy control panel. It's very simple to set up. In this instance, this demo user doesn't have a valid email address, but what we do over here is when you say enable two-factor authentication, you would enable it. It gives you a number you're going to put in. You enter it into your smartphone, and then in the future, whenever you log into DNS Made Easy, you're going to enter your username and your password, and then it's going to immediately ask you for your token. You then go to your smartphone, you look up what your token currently is for that 60-second period, you enter it in, and you're logged into DNS Made Easy. I'm sure many of you have seen the recent exploits that have been put out by a lot of registrars. A lot of people have logged into other DNS service providers. They logged into other registrars using username and passwords that people have guessed or hijacked off people's personal computers, and this eliminates that. This gives users that extra two-factor authentication and gives you a much more secure product in the end. Our corporate membership users, you obviously still have the ability to use our access control list. So you can actually specify individual IPs you want to log in from in addition to the two-factor authentication. So actually it gives you just about a three-factor authentication security mechanism to ensure that you're logging in from the correct location, you know you have the correct username and password, as well as you have the secure token that's on your personal smartphone or device. I would like to quickly talk about our Constellix product and services that the makers of DNS Made Easy, our parent company Tiggy, has been creating over the past year. We're very excited to bring this to the public's view and to see what we're actually been putting together for you. Our first feature that we launched about 3 to 4 months ago is Constellix Sonar. Sonar is our monitoring application. It is meant to be a full-featured system performance monitoring application that's much more advanced than what we can offer in DNS Made Easy. Okay, it's going to give you a lot more decision logic, and you can have a lot more performance metrics to make your decision based upon services being up and down. Obviously, with DNS Made Easy, the services are up, the services are down. In Constellix, you're going to have the ability to make that decision based on performance. Is the service 30% slower than it usually is? Is it 60% slower than it usually is? Is it taking 80 milliseconds longer to connect than it used to? Those are the performance metrics that you can use in your decision to determine if services are up and down. And then when you integrate that sort of decision logic into a DNS platform, a traffic management suite, that's going to give your users a much more special performance, and it gives them a much more feature-rich set of and performance metrics and speed performance you can offer your users. So the Constellix Sonar is designed for our own internal monitoring of over 1,000 name servers in the world. DNS Made Easy had a tough project about 5 or 6 years ago when we were trying to design the fastest DNS network in the world. And the real trick was, how do we cost effectively manage and track thousands of our name servers that we have out there and make sure that users are actually getting the most optimal speeds, right? We want to make sure that users in Europe are seeing our name servers fast. We want to make sure none of that traffic is coming over to North America, because then you're just killing your speeds. We're also not using the cost that the DNS Made users give us. So there's that. There's also, if one of the thousands of name servers just isn't responding, either because of hardware issues externally, right, or because of a tier 1 provider or a firewall or a routing loop or anything like that, we need to know immediately, within seconds of these issues happening. Looking around at the market at the time, we couldn't really find any product that did it cost effectively. We subscribed to many third-party reporting services, but we couldn't find one that gets us at seconds notice of when something goes wrong. So what we had to do internally, and all our administrators and engineering staff came up with, is our own internal monitoring tool. We developed this tool and it worked really well for us, but in talking to many of our users, we decided that maybe we'll make this service public, and that's what Constellix Sonar is. So it has many of the new features that are based on our internal roadmaps, but because we offered it to our users to give feedback, a lot of the new features that we're putting in there are suggestions that our beta users currently have. So currently, if you are a DNS Made Easy user, you should have the privileges already. Most DNS Made Easy users have been granted beta access to Constellix. We highly suggest you to log in and use it. It's a great free tool. It's free to all DNS Made Easy users right now during the beta period that you can use and monitor your applications. Some of the new features that we've pushed out in the last few months is IPv6 monitoring. It's one of the very few features and services monitoring out there that will do pure IPv6 monitoring for you in almost real time. We've added shift-aware notifications, and what that means is that you can specify the times of the day that you personally are going to be, you want someone to receive certain emails. So if you know they work 9 to 5, then you want to specify those are the hours that they'll receive the emails. They shouldn't be receiving the emails late at night because someone else is going to have that responsibility. On top of that, there's role-based contacts, where then when you create a check and you create something that you'd want to check, you can specify what individuals will actually receive those emails, and that then coincides with when that person is working, the shift-aware notification. And a new feature we've announced recently in Constellix Sonar is the region-specific notifications. And that allows you to get the real-world view in that particular region. So a lot of times, a lot of companies have web services all over the world, and then they start getting reports saying, you know, users in Europe are unable to connect to the site. Yet you're based in North America, and when you try to connect to it, it's working perfect, right? And you can't see any real knowledge of an understanding of why users in Europe are reporting these issues. With Constellix Sonar, you can specify that certain checks only are happening in certain parts of the world, and so you can get a real-world view of what's actually going on in that specific region. So I'm going to show you real quickly some of those new features in Constellix Sonar. Let's see if I'm still logged in here now. All right. So if many of you probably have seen Constellix Sonar. If you have not, this is what the control panel looks in when you first log in. And you can see it gives you an entry of all your different checks. All DNS Made Easy users are given access to this. You're going to log in with the same username and password that you do when you log into DNS Made Easy. You just go to sonar.constellix.com. To add a check, it's pretty simple. You first want to give it a name. So let's say I wanted to monitor the control panel for DNS Made Easy. You can specify the different checks. I'm going to specify the host name. I can specify the port to check, and then I can then do a check interval. You can do a check interval all the way down to 30 seconds, and so what happens is that your system will be checked every 30 seconds from multiple locations to ensure that your system's up and running. So you do want to make sure that you're not going to give it to you want to specify something too short that will actually cause your services to actually hamper its performance. When the production services do go live, we actually will have a check interval down to the 5-second period that you can actually do. So you can guarantee you're going to be getting a check every 5 seconds to be notified immediately. At DNS Made Easy, we actually have internal checks that are actually running at 5 seconds so that we know that every single one of our name servers are getting a query every 5 seconds, all 1,000 plus of them, to make sure that all of them are operating functionally. We also then check all of our IP Anycast IP addresses as well to make sure all of them are getting accessed. And that's the only way we can actually stay on top of managing all those systems and staying on top of performance, and that's why we actually are able to maintain the fastest DNS speeds in the world. So if I specify 1 minute, I can then specify the regions where I want that check to be run. I can configure all the checks to be run, obviously, or I could just say I want the checks to be run from a particular region. We can then do advanced settings. You can actually specify individual paths and search strings to look for, very similar to the DNS Made Easy interfaces. I can specify if I want the check to be done over IPv6. You want to make sure that if you're going to do an IPv6 check, you want to make sure there's actually a quad A name record configured, though, if you're going to put a fully qualified domain name in there. And if you're doing IPv6, and if you did put an IP address in here, you want to make sure that's an IPv6 address as well. And then the last tab allows you to specify which groups that you want to be notified. So you can notify your different groups. You can do sysops, DevOps, junior admins, senior admins, and you can specify all this in the configuration. At any point down this line, we allow you to choose a check from multiple locations, and they can say, okay, from Hong Kong right now, I actually want to run the check. And it says it's unable to resolve the IPv6 address. So, like I'm saying, you want to make sure it's done and set up the proper way. If I do IPv4, it says it's completed. The response time from Hong Kong to our control panel was 1879. If I actually change that, the check from Chicago, we're going to see the response time is a lot faster. Make a full round-trip connection and actually download the speeds and everything like that. So it's 344 milliseconds. So this allows you to do real-time troubleshooting of your services, and you actually can see where your performance is and where it's being suffered at the time. So all you do is say save check. Once your system actually is configured, you can actually always view your graphs and see where the performance is and which systems and how fast it's performing from where. The DNS Made Easy reporting is going to, and the Constellix reporting are going to be a little closer representing this. But you can see how Constellix is the next level up, and we actually show you, with DNS Made Easy right now, we just notify you if your services are up or down through email. With Constellix Sonar, you're barely going to see your history, your reports, your speeds from each location, your daily averages, your hourly averages, and allows you to filter down and see exactly what the issues are. So if you notice like higher speeds all of a sudden for several hours, you can step in, you can zoom into particular regions, and you could really find out where your data is and where your problems are. Shift-aware notifications are done within the contacts. You can see as you specify multiple people within the system, you can always edit it, and you can specify a schedule of when they work, at the time they work, and the day of the week. And you can say their start time, the end time, and you can add that into your notification schedules as well. All right. Constellix DNS. So this is going to be a sneak peek for the several hundred of you that are on this webinar today. Constellix DNS is something that we've taken to the next level. DNS Made Easy obviously has been the world's fastest DNS server in the world for many years. It's been the most redundant. We have the highest uptime in the history of offering DNS services. But there's been many features that users have asked us throughout the 13 years that we've added into DNS Made Easy, but there's only so much that we can do and put into that current product set. We talked about with our engineering team, we figured out all the different things that they wanted to do, and we decided to come up with a whole new product called Constellix DNS. So what we had to do to change from DNS Made Easy is make a custom name server software. A lot of the features that users have asked for are non-RFC based, and when you start going outside the RFC boundaries, there's only so much you can do with existing software that you're running or custom software. So we actually developed our own name server software that we've been running in-house and testing for years. And it allows us to give a lot more of the features that our users have been asking for in the last 5-6 years that we've seen getting more and more popular. So obviously in the past year, it's been something that's really been important for us to push out. Our engineering staff started the Constellix DNS piece about 1.5 years ago. We've been testing it internally for the past 6 months, and then within the next month, many of our DNS Made Easy users are going to be given the opportunity to start testing Constellix DNS for free. And it's going to allow you to give a lot more special features that you might be interested in. I'm going to walk through some of those features today, and then if you're interested, send us an email, tweet us, do whatever you want. We'd love to see your interest in it, and we'll make sure you're invited on the first access to the beta users for for the Constellix DNS launch for beta users. So like I said, it is a custom name server software that was developed in-house. There's no other product, there's no other features in the world that currently have the certain features that we're pushing into Constellix DNS. It is a non-RFC defined features that are requested by the DNS Made Easy users. Some of those features are unbalanced traffic connections and round robining that we're calling pools. And it allows you also to do GeoIP based rules. So on top of our global traffic director that we currently already have within DNS Made Easy, and we're going to have in Constellix, you can also define a GeoIP based rule that's actually based not only sometimes on the resolving name server, but actually many resolving name servers such as Google DNS now support the eDNS client subnet. And what that will do, that will actually tell you what IP address the user is actually connecting from. So that user's home connection, that user's office connection, you know exactly where that user is. You're no longer connecting and seeing where that resolving name server is. You're going to be able to see exactly where that user is coming from. So that's going to give you a much higher level of granularity that you're going to have within a GeoIP-based service. Now, how is a GeoIP-based service different than a global traffic director service? Well, the global traffic director service, as you remember me stating, dictates the zones, and they're configured, and it allows you to specify zones in particular regions. So your accuracy is almost 100%, right? We've tested, and it's high 99%, 99.9 and higher percent of accuracy. With the GeoIP-based services, every time a request comes in, you're then comparing that with a GeoIP lookup service to compare, okay, the IP is this, and that's registered to be at this address. So you lose a little bit of accuracy, but if you combine the two of them together, which you're going to be able to do in Constellix DNS, you're going to see a feature-rich service that actually combines the accuracy of GTD with the additional granularity of a GeoIP-based service that gives you everything you really need. In our GeoIP-based rules, we're going to allow you to do what's called Geofilters. And what Geofilters are is they allow you to say hard set rules for known locations and networks. So you can say, okay, users from this particular region or this particular state or from this particular net block have this at response. Okay, so let's say you had you know that people coming from a particular response, you don't even want to see traffic, and you want to drop their records, you can do that too. You can say from this particular country, drop those records. Anyone else can see this record, or anyone else from this particular region goes to this IP, and everyone else goes to this particular IP. And then on top of that, we have one thing called GeoProximity. GeoProximity allows you to specify a longitude or latitude for a particular location of your server, and then we will automatically figure out what's the closest location for that user based upon where they're connecting. So this really allows you to build in, combined with the GTD, a real accurate representation of where you want your users to go to. If you had multiple servers up along, say, North America and the East Coast, you know exactly. If you had them in Miami, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Boston, you could specifically indicate where you want those users to come from, and you can play with the regions and the boundaries of where those locations are. All those computations are computed on the fly, and we guarantee that the resolution is always going to be fast. Our goal is always to give you a fast response, because as many are aware, a fast DNS lookup is your time to first bit. And your time to first bit for your website is really crucial for SEO, for search engine optimization. You do not want a slow responding website that can take a long time, because that's actually going to hurt your results. And so the GeoProximity does do a calculated distance at time of query. So I'm going to walk through some of the features of Constellix DNS, and I'm going to show you firsthand what it looks like, and then just to give you all an interest. And like I'm saying, in the next month, you should see an email coming in for any user that is interested to start testing Constellix DNS. It will be running on our IP Anycast network. It will not be running in all the facilities. It's going to be running in about 5 or 6 of our facilities instead of the normal 13 plus that we're running in right now with DNS Made Easy. By beta 2, we'll be in all 13 of the facilities. So you're going to get you're going to get really, really faster DNS times. At first, we're just going to be offering it in one region per GTD region, just to get users with the experience of testing the new features and running forward with it. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the ability to do pools, and that's been something that's really been requested by a lot of our users, to do an uneven traffic balance. So let's say, for instance, you're launching a new product and you wanted 10% of the users to go to this particular region for a certain period of time, and then as you feel more confident of it, you're going to increase the traffic flow for that particular service until you launch it in full, and then you scale the other one back. So how you configure that in the Constellix Sonar application is what's called pools, and you can create pools with A records, your quad A records, or your C name records. If you look real quickly in A records, we're going to create a new pool. And you can specify a lot of advanced features over here. So let's say we're going to have 6 different servers in this configuration, but we only want to return 2 of those names, 2 of those IPs at a time. And then likewise, if more than 3 of those servers are down, we want to fail over to another pool that's located at another facility. So we're going to have 6 servers at one location, 6 servers at another location, 6 servers at the third location. So how we're going to set this up, you can see me go through here and quickly add all the IPs that I need. All right. So you're going to see that I set up a pool that's going to have 6 different IP addresses, and the weights right now are all the same, but if I wanted one of the services to actually have an uneven amount of weight, I can just do that. So this is actually going to have 8 times more weight. This doesn't have to add up to 100. You can do any numbers that you wish, but we're going to add 8 times more traffic to this server than the rest of these in rotation. So we're going to save this pool, and then so you see we added 2 pools to our system. One has a little uneven weights than the other, but pretty much overall they're the same. And we can actually assign these pools to particular regions if we wanted to. And you're going to see me do this next. So let's say that my sample pool is our first pool, and if at least 3 of these other 6 systems are not up and functioning, I would want to fail over to our second pool. So all you do is I go to my domains. I'm going to go to my example, and I'm going to call it, let's call it my www server. And then we're going to choose our pools option, where we can then select our first pool. And then for the failover, I'm going to go to my second pool. Yeah. So what we've done now is we've automatically incorporated an uneven response. In our first pool, we're giving 80% of our traffic to one of the IPs. And if that IP, if 3 of those systems go down, we're automatically going to fail over to our second pool, which is going to be up and running. This gives you a combination to do unequal traffic matching patterns and everything like that. If we choose to go in and we know that one server is having problems with the 80%, all we do is we go back into our A record pool settings, we modify that pool, and we can change this down to 30%. And you save it, and now we automatically reduce that traffic down, and it's spread out more evenly across all the other services. So previously in DNS Made Easy, we had an equal round-robin RFC standard based configuration. In Constellix DNS, we're allowing you to do unequal patterns to specify where you have your traffic. The next feature I want to show you is the Geofilters and the GeoProximity. So what Geofilters allow you to do is they allow you to specify particular regions or different countries or even individual states. So if I go to North America, and then if I choose United States, in the future we're going to be able to drill down to individual states. I can say, okay, everybody in the United States, I'm going to call this and so the United States goes there. If I want to add another filter, and let's say, for instance, if you had a competitor's network that you knew you didn't want them to look at your website, you could actually do a My Competitor filter and put in the IP subblocks. And save that as well. So what you can actually do now is, if you go back into your managed DNS, and if I wanted my competitors to actually never be able to view my website, and you can obviously do this for particular countries as well. You do a www record, and then with your geofilter rules, you would choose your competitor list and say no answer. And what this automatically does, oh, we already have it defined, so I'm going to have to change that back on the other one. Let me just add a new record for you. So what this allows you to do is it actually allows you to specify that your competitors are actually never going to be able to see an answer or see anything. And then you can create another record with more specific granularity to actually provide them to go to a different response within your GTD regions. You still have the global traffic director options, so you can actually view your individual records as they go across. Just like before, you can add your individual records, so we're going to call this our mail server in 0.1.1.1.1. And then within Europe, you can see that this is from the default. So if we want to create one that's a little more specific just for Europe, we're going to see that now 2.2.2.2 goes in there. One change in Constellix over DNS Made Easy, all your changes are pending until you commit them. So you can always review your configuration and see exactly what's changed. You can roll back your changes. You can go back to editing. You can always view a history and compare your domain compared to other times that you've had your domain configured and working. You commit changes. And at this point, it automatically gets pushed out. It goes live worldwide to all of our hundreds of name servers that are going to be serving your DNS. And you can, as you click through the different tabs now, you're going to see that we have a different response. The source of it's coming directly from Europe, and that we don't see our default. We're in the U.S. East. We're seeing different particular regions all coming from U.S. East. From the default source GTD compared to ones that come from that individual GTD source. So you can see how you can, within each GTD region, you can make specific GeoIP location rules and filters to match where you want your direct traffic to go, where you want traffic to be dropped, and where you want your traffic to be balanced. It gives you the real granular configuration control if you had a large infrastructure and a big cloud layout. Last feature I want to show you real quickly in Constellix DNS is our GeoProximity. And what GeoProximity allows you to do is it allows you to specify individual locations and longitude or latitude. So you don't have to say, I want these states to go to this IP address, I want these states to go to this IP address, right? You can individually just go right down the line, and we don't have everything configured in here at the time because we're not even in beta yet, but we can say, okay, I want Palo Alto, and so I call this one Palo site. And then you can add another one. All right. So I added just 2 sites, and obviously wherever you have your services, wherever you have your cloud layout, you can specify all these different locations. You can put everything in. You can just enter the latitude and longitude if that's what you want to do. And then when you actually are computing anything now, when you're actually configuring anything inside your DNS, you now have that option to do. So from this site, where it goes to Palo Alto, you want it to go to this IP. But from the Houston site, you want it to go to another IP. And that's one thing I'm actually getting a quick error with. There we go. So you can actually specify, and that's obviously one change we're going to have to make into our site to allow that, but you're supposed to be allowed to give different GeoIP proximities based upon where you want your site to be hosted. And so the service will automatically figure out where exactly it is, and it's going to get you to that correct IP. Obviously, we have a small issue there before we get to beta that we have to fix to allow that, but that does work as well. So that's really quickly our Constellix DNS services. There are hundreds of more features in Constellix DNS that we have on top of the DNS Made Easy services that we can talk about in webinars to come. But please look forward to that, the email coming up shortly about testing all of our services. I definitely want to thank everybody for your time today. I know we're about an hour mark right now, so if you do have any questions, feel free to let us know. You can always contact us at support.dnsmadeeasy.com. You can call us at our telephone number. You can send us tweets over Twitter, send us comments on Facebook, send us an email, and also visit our new website at constellix.com as well. We look forward to continuing to serve your DNS needs. If you have any feature requests or if there's anything we need for you, please let us know. It's the wonderful customers that we have and the clients that we have in DNS Made Easy that allows us to keep growing our services. As many of you are aware, we do very little marketing. We do very little sales. We have no sales team. We do no commissions. Everything's based upon providing reliable and enterprise-level services. And that's the reason why our services are a fraction of those that that have those huge marketing teams and stuff like that and sales commissions. You're always going to get the bottom cost, and we're going to constantly try to give you the best return on investment for any features you give us. So once again, I do appreciate your time. I thank you all very much, and I hope you enjoyed today's webinar. If you have any thoughts or feedback, feel free to let us know, and we will make sure to do our best to answer those, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.